let's turn now to the top 10 picks and just general overviews. Do you think it was a good pick, or do you think it's just like a whiff? So we'll start at the top, and whoever wants to jump in first, go ahead. Philadelphia takes Ben Simmons. I don't think many people are surprised by this.
No, that was the right pick.
Ryan, would you argue against it being the right pick, or is there, or just unanimous?
No, you got to go with the best available, the number one consent. I feel he was just the number one right off the bat, and no, they did good. And the so far what I've heard is that everyone's psyched on it. Even Iverson, I think he shouted him out on was it Twitter or Instagram? Yeah. So like when you're already
he was at the draft party.
Exactly. When you're already being praised by the biggest legend in Philadelphia basketball, then I say it's all to him. So I'm all up for Ben Simmons.
Yeah. I think the first two picks were bang on. I think Simmons and then Ingram for LA. I think those picks were bang on personally.
And just to add to Philly, I actually thought they did really well with their off picks, 24 and 26. 24, they got Timothée Luwawu from France, who actually I've seen a couple mock drafts is actually way higher than that, and Furkan Korkmaz from I believe Turkey. Both these guys, kind of 3-and-D guys, can handle the ball. Look, they needed wings, and these guys were both in the top 20 in a lot of mock drafts. To be able to get them also in the first round, I think that compares really well. Look, you just brought in two guys who can play defense and shoot the three. And now that you have Ben Simmons who can handle the ball, this starts to make this roster make a little bit more sense. We're both agreeing then with the Los Angeles Lakers, number 2, Brandon Ingram. I think where it starts to get interesting, I think everyone will agree, is with the Boston Celtics. Number 3, there were a lot of names here. Dragan Bender was there, Chris Dunn was there, but ultimately they go with Jaylen Brown from California. I thought it was interesting because they're talking about trading for Jimmy Butler, and some of the comps for this guy was a younger Jimmy Butler. I actually like this trade. I think he fits really well. I think in a modern NBA, him and Jay Crowder actually is really nice, because we saw when Crowder was not playing, that it really threw them off their game, and here they may have kind of a backup plan to play multiple positions.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that this was the right pick at number 3, or did they go a little off base?
I think the Celtics kind of messed up their asset management. Their whole plan coming into this offseason was that they were going to use the top 3 pick. They were going to use the players they get to sign a star, and then use that star to recruit other stars. I think they went a little off the board. I do like Jaylen Brown. I was kind of hoping that he would slip a little bit, maybe even to Toronto's range. But when you look at Jaylen Brown, he does remind me kind of a Jay Crowder without a jump shot. And you saw as soon as they made that pick, the interest in trading with the Celtics went away. Immediately, Chicago started talking to Minnesota, trying to get Chris Dunn. Even though that they have way too many guards, I think if you draft Dunn, you have the potential to make a trade later in this offseason, maybe immediately after the pick, maybe in a few weeks. I just think he's a more attractive trade chip. I really hate the Celtics draft. I do like Jaylen Brown. I think he's going to have a spot in this league. I just don't like his fit on this roster. I don't think he really fits a need. And from an asset management standpoint, that pick plus all the draft and stash guys that they got, I just think this draft was a blown opportunity for the Celtics.
Do you agree there, Ryan? Because they were talking about trading and wanting to get other guys, and it seems like right now, I like the player, but they didn't address some front court shot blocking. They didn't address getting that superstar. They didn't address, a couple of things. Were you kind of yay or nay on this guy?
See, the thing is, it's just as Justin was saying, if they were looking for a player that could develop into a great player and, down the road become that guy, then it was a great pick. He reminds me of Jason Richardson, actually. Big body, flexible, athletic. He could create his own. He's going to be a great player, but Boston's in this position where they need somebody for now. So they should have stuck to their guns and traded this pick off somewhere. Getting a Jimmy Butler would have been perfect. That boosts the Celtics literally, I would say, almost to the Eastern Conference
Finals. But they
Finals.
have Danny Ainge, and Danny Ainge, is not going to overpay for a guy like that. So maybe that kind of got into it. Okay, so I think we're all more or less agreeing. Look, I actually think drafting for immediate needs is a mistake, as we'll go into later. But I think it was the right pick, but I completely understand why you guys hesitate there. So number 4 is where it gets interesting. This, for me, is the team that's the winner of the draft, the Phoenix Suns. And I know some people are going to harp on me for this one, but they went back and forth between Dragon Bender and Marquise Chris. And just to tie it together with number 4 and number 8, which they got through a trade with the Sacramento Kings, they got both. They got arguably the 2 best available power forwards outside of, Ben Simmons, and with Marquise Chris' ability to play the 3 and the 4, shoot young. I mean, to me, there is, if you look at where their talent it was in the backcourt. They had a nice center. I like Alex Len, but their weaknesses was at the 3 and the 4. And to me, they picked almost 2 of the best guys to fill that. What do you guys think of Phoenix moving forward? Because I think that they're just, a trade of Bledsoe or Knight away from being really interesting.
They're certainly interesting. I really like Marquise Chris. I think it's going to take him about 2 or 3 years to really figure it out. He is still fairly raw, but overall, I think he is going to be someone that makes an impact in this league. I love that they traded, even though this isn't the best or deepest draft that there is. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to turn out to be solid role players, solid starters, and I think they did a good job getting 2 of those when Phoenix really just needs to restock the cupboard. I think they're going to be aggressive in trying to trade either Bledsoe or Brandon Knight. So the fact that they got those 2 guys, I think interesting is the right word there, Phil. I don't think they're close to being a playoff team yet. I think they're a few steps away, and they got to get rid of a few veterans there. But I think they did a really good job of adding some talent, adding some guys that fit well with the system that they're trying to run. So overall, I agree. I think it's a good draft for them.
And Ryan, you think the same thing for Phoenix? They did all right?
Honestly, if you know me, I'm a stretch 4 guy. I love the power forward position, and if you can shoot the 3 and rebound, then you got my vote. This guy, I think he's going to be a big risk, big reward type of thing here, where he may be like a very, very he could be a top 10 player in this league, depending on everything.
Chris or Bender here at this point, though.
We're talking about Chris. Yeah, okay. at the power forward for Phoenix.
Shit.
I think he has the potential to be an amazing player in this league. And 1, he can shoot the 3. 2, he's an explosive guy in the paint. And then at the same time,
maybe they're next Sean Marion, ideally.
I think even better than Sean Marion, to be honest. He does have
that's a high standard. Sean Marion was like an all-world player when he was in his prime.
The thing is, he won't be the defensive gem that Sean Marion was, but he's going to be a great shot blocker. And again, if you can make the 3 and be 7 foot, you literally have my vote, because that just changes the game. So, and pair him up with Tyson Chandler. If Chandler stays, that would be a very good duo, 4 and 5.
Well, I just think long term, even if he doesn't stay, Alex Len there, I think that 3-man rotation of Bender, Len, and Chris is phenomenal. And even if only one of those 2 pans out, they're winners, right? Because if you take the 2 best power forwards and you land that, and I still think there's other trade opportunities. Like, we're saying all these point guards. I won't go too deep into it, but there are teams like Milwaukee who could use a point guard. Like who says that a guy like choose which one you like. Maybe trade Chris and Bledsoe. Maybe get a Jabari Parker to play the 3, more of a natural fit, like something like that. Whatever. But
yeah, I think at the very least, when I was criticizing the Celtics, I just didn't think that they put themselves in great position for a future trade. They didn't take the best tradable asset moving forward. I think Phoenix, at the very least, they have a lot of guys that a lot of teams would desire. They have a lot of tradable assets. So even if there's some overlap in skills or talent, I think that they'd be able to make the moves and acquire the necessary pieces moving forward.
Absolutely. So we were speaking of Chris Dunn before with Boston. Now he lands with number 5. Minnesota Timberwolves already with a point guard in Ricky Rubio, but Tom Thibodeau likes defense, and we've seen Chris Dunn working out with Karl Anthony Towns before the draft. Is this a consensus pick that they should have made, or do you think they should have gone another position? Because it kind of had talent at every position. But Chris Dunn, best player on the board, or would you guys have gone with the Canadian Jamal Murray?
I love the pick. I think they do move Ricky Rubio, if not this year, next year. Maybe have him around 1 year for mentorship. I think Chris Dunn, in my opinion, he was the third highest upside in the draft. It wouldn't really surprise me if he ended up being the second best player in this draft. I think he's a big body, aggressive guy. I think he's going to fit really well there. I think he's got the same type of temperament as Karl Anthony Towns. I think they're going to mesh really well there. I think it's a Tom Thibodeau pick. Like I see him developing into a good defensive player. And that Minnesota team with him, Wiggins and Towns, I think they can be really imposing in the very near future.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take Ricky Rubio and you have to play a GM, Ryan, do you think there's a natural fit with maybe trading him to a team? I mean, the two teams that pop up like right away need point guards is Milwaukee and Philly. Do you see any good fits there for Ricky Rubio?
See, with Ricky, I would say Milwaukee would work out for him. I'm not really a big fan of Ricky, to be honest. I felt, his first couple of years, he did have some magic, but I think the writing was on the wall for him when him himself said that he's not really here to lose anymore, which is, that's cool. But Minnesota's on this uprising, which I felt like, I don't think he should have said that. I think he should have stuck with the team as much as possible, because now this is the team that he's kind of been born and bred with. And then now he's just kind of, I want out if we're not going to win again. But, the future's bright. And I feel this pick for them would have been great, because I'm a big fan of defensive / rebounding guards, and I felt Chris Dunn is that dude. When I look at comparable, I know he's obviously not a Jason Kidd, but when I had Jason Kidd on the Mavs, I was dumbfounded by his IQ, his rebounding ability, and then his ability to set up for players, and that's what I see in Chris Dunn. I see that same defensive / rebounding ability, and the ability to get his own. So I feel he'll be a great replacement for Rubio. As for Rubio, I'd say Milwaukee would probably be the best destination for him.
Well, I'm actually going to drop a dark horse that I hope happens. I hope Rubio goes to Sacramento, because they want to have the fastest show on earth. Gets traded for Willie Cauley-Stein, the former Kentucky alum, goes to Karl Anthony Towns, a mobile big, and then you get Scal, who they drafted to play with Cousins at center. You have Rubio. Maybe makes some sense. But yeah, he's going to be traded out of town, although I think he has a bit higher value than you're giving him there on the trade market. I think there are going to be teams that offer quite a bit, because he can still play defense and he can pass and make your guys better. Okay. So number 6.
Oh, for sure.
Number 6 seemed like a pretty obvious fit. Buddy Hield with the Pelicans. I mean, they could have gone a couple ways with Jamal Murray, but having a point guard, Drew Holiday, still under contract, was this just the right pick overall? You need to replace Eric Gordon. You got a guy who's a lights-out shooter, great character guy, 22 years old, can come in right away and start winning with Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was a great fit. I think the Pelicans, and obviously we'll touch on them later, but the Nuggets, I think they got really good fits. I think Buddy Hield is a great player. I'm really high on his upside. He's another player. God, it feels like we're crapping on the Celtics a lot here, but I think even that would have been a better pick than going with Jaylen Brown at 3. But I think Buddy Hield's really talented. He can obviously shoot. I think the Pelicans got the right guy there, and they were probably cheering a lot when he slipped that far in the draft.
Yeah, it was an interesting draft with guys who slipped, and we'll kind of go into that later, because there's a lot of bigs that I actually really liked. I fell into late first round and second round, but there was a lot of slippage of guards who fell, and I heard some interesting arguments that people saying like guards are almost an overvalued commodity at this point in the NBA because there's so many good ones. Do you guys think there's any value to that? Because, I mean, we'll be slipping into Jamal Murray next, but do you think there's like such an emphasis on guards that we have so many talented guys? Like you have teams like Boston who have like 3-4 good guards and this, that even though point guard is the position of the future with all your Steph Currys and Russell Westbrooks, that maybe there's not the value there once was?
I'm actually kind of shocked because you'd think that your needs right now are guards. I think the weakest position for some teams is finding a good one or two right now, with exactly competing with the Tony Parkers, the Steph Currys, the James Harden. So the fact that he slipped down, it's not far, but the fact that he went down this far for what he can do, yeah, no, that's actually a big shock. So kudos to the Pelicans for picking him up here and hopefully teaming him up with Anthony Davis. I feel like he's a guy who can pretty much do everything at the two, and he's going to be a great fix. So, and especially with Eric Gordon and people most likely on their way out, he'll be a great replacement.
Yeah,
I think the future really is about having multiple guys that can initiate the offense. We see that's a big key to what the Warriors do. They got Andre Iguodala, they got Andre Drummond, they got Steph Curry, all initiating the offense.
Sean Livingston.
And I think Sean Livingston, exactly. So I think the league is becoming less and less Rondo orientated, where one guy creates for the four others. I think it's about having multiple playmakers, and I think that's what Buddy Hield presents for them.
Oh, absolutely, and multiple playmakers at non-normative positions. I mean, Ben Simmons, number 1 overall. Giannis is playing point guard. Draymond Green was playing point guard for sometimes, bringing up the ball for Golden State. So we have many interesting guys there. I do think that's a fantastic fit, Buddy Hield. But Ryan, being a Torontonian, Jamal Murray, he's there with the Denver Nuggets. And I know that Justin and I are a big fan of this fit. What's your feel before we dive into this?
I'm with you guys right as well. I think, to be honest, he's going to surprise and shock a lot of people, especially the Denver Nuggets. They're going to see, 1, his worth ethic, 2, his overall playing ability is just going to be phenomenal. And I think he's going to have the Denver Nuggets going high in terms of returning to the playoffs. Maybe, I'm not going to say next year, but I truly believe Denver hit a gem with Jamal Murray, and it's not just because, I'm a Torontonian Canadian, but I've seen what this guy's been able to do over the last couple of years, and I just like his motor. I like the way he just goes about business, and I feel like he has that mentality where I just want to win. So bringing Denver, taking him, to be honest, out of the top 10 picks, obviously Ben and Brandon are gems, but I feel he's going to be the one that's going to really, when we're looking back at this draft in 10 years, he's the guy that we're going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm. And Justin, does he pretty much, and I think I'm going to start you off here, does he legitimize Emmanuel Mudiay? Because to me, I like that backcourt now.
Yeah, you have to have a shooter next to him. I think he's going to take some of the playmaking load off of him. Really, Jamal Murray, when I look at him, he reminds me so much of Brandon Roy. Brandon Roy slipped in the draft for similar reasons. People question his athleticism, but he's so crafty with how he ignites through the lane. Brandon Roy, Paul Pierce, those are the type of guys that his movement reminds me of. And that outside shot, he has an elite shooting stroke, and if you have an elite talent, you're going to find a place in this league. So I really think Jamal Murray is a lot of people. I don't think he's going to be a star or anything like that, but I think he's going to be a guy that's going to make a huge difference, and he's going to be a really important part of the Nuggets moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a fantastic part, and I don't think it should be discounted that it's a bit of a smaller city. He doesn't seem like a super flashy guy. I think that's going to fit. I think Mike Malone as a coach is a fantastic fit. I think having some guys who've been there, I think having Gallinari next to you, having some real centers who can pass as well. The ball's going to zip all around with that team there, and I think it's going to be kind of a win by committee situation. I think it's a great situation. Low expectations, absolutely. The number 8 pick. Yeah, absolutely. The number 8 pick we spoke about already being Marquise Chriss. He moved to Phoenix. Now, the number 9 pick to the Toronto Raptors, Jakob Poeltl. I've heard everything from the big white stiff to the future Pau Gasol. Either one of you can take off with this, because I'm going to say right now, I'm not a believer. I think they should have gone with a 4. I can't believe they passed on Deontay Davis or Scal or a bunch of these guys. I know some people are singing his praises. Can someone argue me off the ledge?
I think Poeltl is one of the safer picks. I think that's the route Masai went. When you look at the players that were drafted around him and the guys that were available, there weren't any stretch fours or 3-and-D small forwards that wouldn't have been a reach at that point. I really think Poltel, he's talented, great hands, athletic. He's got,
but he is
his
a center,
jumper,
right? He can't play the full.
he is, but they need a backup center for sure, at the very least. But his mechanics on his shot aren't broken. There's reason to believe he can develop a 3-point shot. He's a good finisher. He really is a traditional center in a lot of ways, and I think that's where some of the confusion was. But I really think that even if he doesn't have the highest upside, I think this was a really safe pick. I think he has the potential to be a very, very good defender. You see how he moves his feet, even defending perimeter players, which becomes bigger and bigger in this league, and that's something that Jonas Valanciunas can't do. So I think he does bring a lot of things that they need. He brings a lot of size, and overall, I think he's someone that can make an impact pretty quickly on this roster, which I think that's what they were looking for. They were looking for high floor players that could come into this Eastern Conference Finals team and make an impact.
And Ryan, being the hometown straw that stirs the drink there, did you get the feeling overall that the city was happy with the pick, or do you think they would have rather? Because in my mind, I just didn't get how they couldn't have offered more than Phoenix did for a number 8 pick and pick Chris. That is still going to stick in my mind. Like, I don't understand how that didn't happen.
To be honest, even way before this draft, I was a big proponent of actually trading this pick for a now player. And if you guys heard, we nearly had Serge Ibaka, which I felt would have put us over the top. And if we had that trade for Serge, that would have made Canada go nuts. But the overall reaction that I've heard is it's more like a Jonas Valanciunas deal where nobody really knows this guy much about him. Well, at least the average fan. They don't really know much about him, so they're just judging him off of. To be honest, I feel like there's some racial profiling going on. Just judging him off because he looks like I don't know his background, but European. They get that vibe from him where they don't know what to expect. Okay, Croatian,
Or I thought he was Austrian actually, but I think people were concerned that Jakob Poeltl is Austrian for Rafael Araujo, so I think people got a little freaked out there. That's it.
Yeah, but to be honest, we don't know. And look at what happened with JV. The guy turned out to be a gem for us, and at one point in the playoffs, he was our best player before he went down. So that could be another guy. But the real benefit of him is that I've heard around is that he's a real center, which is rare in this league. Real go down and beat him up in the paint guy, which is the perfect replacement for the soon-to-be gone Biombo, because we cannot afford this guy. We cannot afford this guy.
You see, the thing I didn't understand then, with their 27th pick, they could have had the guys I wanted, Deonte Davis and Scal, but they picked Pascal Siakam, which body type-wise and personality type-wise is very much like Bismack Biyombo. So I get you want to replace him, but you did it twice where you could have really swung for the fences a couple times on the other one. I don't know. I think that's my biggest criticism. If they had taken Poltl with their first pick at number 9 and then number 27 gone with Scal or gone with one of those, and just if it works out as a 4, because look, Deonte Davis, I know he had terrible workouts, he slid on every team, but if he works out, he's what you need at the 4, so you just stash him, right? I didn't get why you had to replace Biyombo twice. I think that was my biggest criticism.
But I think the criticism should fall on the 27th pick, not on Poltl. Another thing we didn't mention yet is he is a very good passer. He recognizes the double teams underneath the basket when he's driving. He finds open shooters for 3. I think he averaged about 1.9 assists, which is great for a center, especially in college. So I really do think, even though he is a traditional center, he does a lot of the things that a modern big man they want them to do. And if he does develop that defensive game, which he does have tremendous defensive upside, he can be a big really impactful player there. I think you're seeing almost like a little bit of an Andrew Bogut, a passing center that can make an impact on defense, very mobile, great hands. And I think if he works out, at the very least, it's a trade chip. If he develops that defensive game, something that Jonas Valanciunas doesn't really possess and has struggled with so much, Jonas Valanciunas then becomes a trade piece because as much as he's an offensive player, his offense hasn't come in the flow of the offense. It doesn't come as a complementary aspect to Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. So I think it opens things up there. So I think they took the best one of the best players available, one of the safest picks. So I like the first pick. I really, really don't like the Siakam pick, especially with the guys that were available.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I was questioning it at the time of the draft, and a lot of people were saying, trust in Masai because he may have like other moves to go. And part of me, which helped me, which kind of calmed down, was I'm like, do they now trade JV? Right? Because it like
not right away. No.
Okay.
Because big men take a while to develop. Like typically about 24, 25, you know what you got. He's depth now. Toronto's Eastern Conference Finals last year. They're not looking to take a step back. Rookies. Right? Yes. Well,
if DeMar DeRozan does not sign, I think then JV becomes a very obvious trade piece.
Well, I think I'd trade Kyle Lowry first at that point because then you're looking at full rebuild and he's 30. Yeah. But I expect DeRozan to re-sign. And rookies, even if they put up good points, typically they don't make a huge impact on the game. There's no way in hell I'm relying on a rookie center. Your only other option would be Bebe, and that just can't happen. So I wouldn't be looking to trade JV right now unless if it was in a package to get a disgruntled player to get them over the hump, like a DeMarcus Cousins.
Like a D'Angelo Russell.
No, come on. Now you're going the wrong direction, man.
Yeah.
Good direction, wrong direction. Now, talking about could go in a lot of directions. The number 10 pick, Milwaukee, Thon Maker, gone from, some people had him all the way at like 30 or 40 on draft boards. And then on draft day, just skyrocket up there. Tons of potential, tons of unknown, don't even know his real age. Thon Maker for the Milwaukee Bucks, they rolled the dice before on the Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're doing it again with Thon Maker. They have already Jabari Parker in the front court. They have Greg Monroe. They have Giannis. They have Chris Middleton. They need a point guard. I guess that's Giannis.
Delly.
Yeah, maybe Delly, but hopefully Bledsoe. But do you guys like this pick? I mean, he's one of those guys. If you look at 10 and below, if you're really talking upside, maybe he has the highest ceiling. How do you guys generally feel?
I would be okay with the pick if it came at 36. Yeah. Like I wouldn't take him at 10. I think that's them feeling themselves a little bit too much after the Giannis pick. I just think that was a real stretch, especially with Sabonis still on the board.
Yeah.
Sabonis, interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing is, okay, can Thon Maker play power forward or is he a center? Let's just put that in the ring right away, because to me that matters. If you watch his his highlight reels, which even he will admit are exaggerated, but he has a decent handle for a big guy-ish. He can kind of hit a jump shot. He's mobile. He's long. Can you see him, like, maybe the argument was they thought, kind of like the Raptors with Pokel, that he can play some four next to Monroe, make up for some of the things that Monroe doesn't do well. Is there an argument to be made there?
I don't think he can play right now. Like, I don't think he's physically suited. I think you need to put him in the D League. I think if you throw him into the NBA now, he's just going to get absolutely abused. He's so slight of frame. I think he needs to add weight. I think if you throw him in too early, you risk kind of blowing his confidence. Theoretical Thon Maker, yes. It would fit great next to Greg Monroe. He theoretically can play defense. No rookies can play defense, so he's not going to be providing that off the bat. I don't think his 3-point shot is NBA consistent enough where he can get into those open spaces and do more than just simply catch and shoot open threes. So right off the bat, I think you have to treat this as a developmental project. I think you need to bring him along slower than you even did for Giannis. And I think you need to protect him because it's a high upside pick theoretically, but I think it also has the potential to be one of the worst busts of the draft.
But at number 10, and you're Milwaukee, you kind of have to do that, I feel, no? Because number 10, like if you were number 2 or 3, I feel you a bit more there. But at number 10, like I'm looking at who was there, and like who did they pass on? Sabonis, Prince, a bunch of overseas guys, Denzel Valentine, Wade Baldwin. Like I kind of liked Wade Baldwin there. Was he a true point guard? Like outside of the bigs that I really liked that slid, I don't know. I
at
feel
the very
that
least you could have traded back. Trade back into a range where that becomes a more logical pick. That it's worth taking the risk. Get a few more assets for your troubles. I'm sure they tried that and they were worried
but
that
if you know
that
that's going to be your guys, this is my biggest problem. Like with drafting in any sport, if you know you want someone and really you've had him in and you feel it, I think you just run with them because we saw with Sacramento, even in this draft, how they traded back with that number 8 pick. And I think they had one of the worst drafts out of every team in the whole league. And they could have had a great asset to trade. So,
yeah. Well, my concern is Milwaukee's on the way up. Like I think Jabari Parker now having a season off of his ACL tear, I think he's going to step up. I think Giannis is elevating to the level where he's going to be near an all-star status. Chris Middleton's one of the better 3-and-D guys. I think they're going to be aggressive in trying to add point guards, and they're going to try to add some depth. So the opportunity cost of potentially having a bust that doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form, I think is huge at this point in your development because you're not going to be picking this high again. Unless you make a trade for a pick later on, or you get lucky as Cleveland did, where you just miss out on the playoffs and you get the number 1 pick. Unless something unforeseen happens, you're not going to have the opportunity to add bona fide talent like this. So while swinging for the fences, yes, you can do. I would encourage it if it was a weak draft. Maybe if you're Philly, that's far away. Maybe you would do it at the 10th position. But with them being on the way up, I just think it's too much of a risk for them. I hope it works out. Obviously, Thon Maker is an easy guy to root for. It's just a little too risky for me.
Okay, so let's just tie it back, play speculative trade for 2 seconds. I know everyone likes this. Phoenix gives you the call, and you're Mr. Hammond with Milwaukee. They say, I have Eric Bledsoe for you. You know you like him next to Giannis. Even with Giannis bringing up the ball, what are you offering for him at this point? And that's not going to make you hang up.
I don't know.
Or Brandon. Or Knight. You can have either one.
Knight would be a great fit in Milwaukee.
Much better. Carter Williams.
Yeah, I'm sure they're regretting that trade. I don't know. I'd offer some combination of future picks. Greg Monroe. I wouldn't want to part ways.
Well, you know Phoenix doesn't want Monroe. Yeah,
I know. I don't think there's a logical trade there.
You wouldn't do the Marquis.
Eric Bledsoe's concerning to me because you don't know if he's ever going to be the same. He hasn't been able to stay on the floor. I don't know if I'm giving up any of my core foundation pieces for him, and I think the asking price would be too high. I think that's why they're going to end up trading Brandon Knight rather than Bledsoe, because I think his value just isn't his trade value isn't at the point where Phoenix would give up his value as a player. So I just can't see that happening.
Okay, so if Phoenix turns around saying, I'll give you Marquise Chris and Knight, and I want Parker, are you both saying no if you're Milwaukee?
I think I'd go for that.
I don't know, because Milwaukee's trying to build this super freakishly large and tall team that all have the ability.
Marquise Chris fits really well there, I feel.
Yeah, I to be honest, the whole Thon Maker thing, just I get it because it fits their dynamic of having these, large 7-footers have the ability to just run down the court, and they're just all athletic. So I get the pick, but I'd be taking up a trade. I'd go with you, and I'd think about trading him.
All right.